All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ Podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. This is a Kiss-related podcast by the board, for the board. We hope that you enjoy. Welcome to episode 270.
Can't hear you now.
What do you mean you can't
You're
hear
muted.
me? I'm not muted.
Now you're good.
Whoa. I didn't press anything. All right, so welcome to episode 272 of the KissFAQ Podcast. I'm your host, Julian Gill. Today I'm joined by Bag Boy, Alex.
Hey there.
69th Blizzard, Ken. And Marcus Almighty, Mark.
Greetings.
Anyone bought any new stuff? Oh, I have. Actually, I didn't buy it. It was, I meant to mention this a couple of weeks ago, but it arrived finally. And a big shout out to Phil. Kiss Aussie
nice.
Collectors. That's a copy of the Australian Mixdown. It's got an article on the tour, and he also sent me, which is really nice because I'm going to have to get it framed and everything, an
Nice.
Wow.
Australian
Nice.
End of the Road tour poster. So thank you, Phil, and Scott, who posted it to me on the state side of things. Very much appreciate it. Anyone else bought
I got
Legos?
some stuff.
Yeah, Mark, what did
I
you
got
get?
some stuff, but I didn't buy any Kiss stuff. So
Come on.
Who cares? Show us what. Oh,
Brilliant,
Marillion,
yeah.
clutching at straws. Fantastic
And
album.
I got this. I totally found. I couldn't believe it. A Korean cassette pressing of Yes Talk. And
Sweet.
Peter Gabriel.
Peter Gabriel.
All right, cool stuff.
all on cassette.
Yeah, well, we don't have to be Kiss all the time, do we? Because obviously I'm going into day 5 of my Bruce Springsteen immersion therapy.
Yes, I noticed.
And tomorrow I'll be talking about The River. Ken,
Ooh,
that was badass.
Bad
Company. What a fantastic... Which albums are in there? Everything?
The first six.
Awesome.
If you look at this.
Off of Swan Song Records, there's like the
Right.
Swan Song collection.
Excellent.
Yeah.
You know, what a great
they're-
band they were.
Yeah. Great. A lot of great music.
All right, Alex, it's up to you.
Okay. Well, I kind of gone digital and stuff with my stuff, so I'll show it on my phone. But I did a whole White Snake purchase of some White Snake albums.
Oh, wow.
So you did get
Yeah.
those.
I dived into it. Well, I had Forevermore and the Purple album, and I had a best of, and
Slide it in.
And I think it was that Ralph guy. I'm trying to avoid his name. The Dr. F guy. And I think I kind of like
Vera.
he collects discographies, and that's kind of like me. Like if I'm into a band, I'm like, man, I want all this stuff. Now I got to go get all the albums because I don't want to like miss out. I don't want to listen to the best of and go like, this song's awesome. I wonder what the other 9 songs off that album sound like. So
Yeah.
That makes me pleased because in the middle of the day yesterday, I had Mr. Bag Boy there message me and say, "Hey, do you recommend any White Snake for me?" So I told him a couple of those old records there, and I'm very pleased that you got them.
Yeah.
I really like Love Hunter because I actually like the Purple album, which is like that deep purple material that David Coverdale was on. And I think the thing that kind of got me too is my Facebook kept popping up. They've got a deluxe edition of the Slip of the Tongue album coming out, and anyways, the comment's funny because it shows David Coverdale. He goes through the whole best of, and somebody had commented like, "Oh, it's so nice that David Coverdale's grandmother is showing this off for everybody."
Oh, no.
That's me. I love David
That's-
Coverdale. I love White Snake. I've got a couple of EPs up there. The Gambler, the 2 songs that were produced by Eddie Kramer prior to Slip of... Slide It In, pardon me.
Slide It In,
'cause I checked out when he got Steve Vai. I was like, forget it. That's not... I like the bluesy, side of White Snake a lot. And Saints and Sinners, probably one of my favorite albums. Got the original versions of Here I Go Again and
Crying in the Rain.
yes,
Crying in the Rain.
total different beast. And then make sure you check out both versions of Slide It In, the UK mix and then the US one, which I think had Adrian Vandenberg doing more kind of guitar solo stuff. So they're very different in character, but each are very much worthwhile. And I remember buying Trouble. I mean, geez, I also have snake bite up there in white vinyl 7-inch. So
Nice.
that's about as much as I have, but cool stuff. All right, let's get into Kiss. We've been going through the albums. It's September. It's hard not to talk just about Kiss albums because they put out so many. It was like one of those times a year you could basically expect to get a new release. So for the next, couple of shows, probably we're going to be strictly talking about albums and revisiting them and kind of ranking all the songs. But today we're going to talk about Lick It Up. And Ken, as the elder on here, and I only mean that in the sense that you were a fan going back to the 70s, whereas some of us weren't around, some of us weren't fans. You were, so you got to see the band on the Creatures of the Night tour, 3 shows, and then you would have gotten to buy this album when it came out. So I want to start with you on your thoughts about this album and where it actually sat to someone who was a Kiss Army membership carrying fan as they transitioned, and did what was essentially a pretty low-key rollout of getting out of makeup because no one cared about them at the time. What do you recall about 1983 in this album?
Yeah, it was low-key. The first thing I remember is that they were going to be on the big unveiling of, removing the makeup or appearing without their makeup. And that may have been the first I heard about it, or unless I heard it in the magazine that the new album's coming out. Probably did see an ad for it because I used to get Circus and all those magazines. So I knew it was coming, but then I didn't know it was going to be, without makeup. So they were revealed there first because it didn't advertise it. That's true. They wouldn't have advertised it without the makeup before, in magazines before them appearing on MTV. So it had to be MTV first. And I did see it Sunday evening. So I was, all keyed up for that thing, to see that happen. But I think about a week before the release of the album, I had another guy that worked at the record store. He had a copy of the album already, and he taped me on cassette. He gave me a cassette of the new Kiss album, and he said, "Here's the new Kiss album." I said, "Oh, really?" He's like, "Cool." So I plugged, put it on, put it in my car, and I was, jamming to it. So I thought, "Oh, this is pretty good. This is pretty darn heavy." So that was cool. So yeah, it was low key. I had seen Creatures before. I saw them on the MTV, and then I think that following week, probably was the first Tuesday after that, maybe 2 days later, I went, actually, another time I went at lunch. I walked to the mall from where I was working and went and picked up a cassette version, actually, of that before buying the vinyl version of it. So anyway, it was cool. It was very cool period of time, and I was very happy that they were. I was okay with them removing the makeup. I was happy as long as the music was still good and hard rocking.
Well, as someone who obviously went to the Creatures tour, had that album new and fresh. What was your take on the music from those first, it's not like Dynasty where you played the wrong side of the album first. If you bought it on cassette, presumably you had no choice but to play the first song, the correct first song. So, I mean, coming off Creatures, what was your impression to that music?
Well, the first real impression was it seemed, heavy. I mean, but it was in a different heavy way than the Creatures. The other thing I noticed is the sound wasn't the same as Creatures. It was different. The instruments weren't as separate as on Creatures, and the vocals were also more in the pushed back than less up front than were on Creatures. I noticed that right away. I was like, I can't understand what Paul Stanley's singing on this, and sometimes it's hard anyway, but I could tell that it seemed like his vocals were pushed back a ways, like distant vocal. I don't know what the proper term that would be. Mark would probably know, but it just seemed, a different mix, different type of mix than the Creatures. Though it was still good. I mean, it was still, not sludge or something like, Hot in the Shade, or not Hot in the Shade, but Hotter Than Hell.
Yeah, affected by the sonics of that first Night Ranger album, probably, and becoming a little bit more commercially produced and a little bit more accessible, less bombastic, and more measured. Not that it really helped them. Alex, as a youngster, what do you recall about your first interactions with this album?
Well, I think I've shared with everybody. My dad had the vinyl records. He had up to Animalize. And he had Asylum on CD because that was the first CD he got when he was in Japan with the Navy. But I remember pulling out the album covers all the time. And that one, it was. I know some vinyl collectors may be like, "Oh no," but so all my dad's his records weren't in sleeves except for the Lick It Up one. He kept the shrink wrap on so it would stay white and everything. And so I was just remember always him kind of saying, "Don't dirty up this album cover" and stuff. And that was kind of my first recollection was more just looking at it. But then, of course, getting into the music and stuff, I really enjoyed it. I always thought the cover was cool. Even as a young kid, it was like, my dad was like, yeah, that's the only cover that Vinnie Vincent was on. He didn't put him on the Creatures one and stuff. And so that was always kind of a unique thing. But yeah, so I just
don't know. He's not on my cover.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry, Vinny.
Yes.
I'm just playing. I'm not going to turn into an Eminem kill shot video for Vinnie Vincent on this episode. Mark, how about you? Your first interactions with Lick It Up?
Well, it's interesting actually because in the days when I was back in the apartment building when I was much younger, I remember there was great controversy in the building about Kiss are taking their makeup off amongst my sister and their friends. That it was happening. The girls in the apartment building were kind of, interested to see what do they look like without their makeup. And the guys, funny enough, more had the impression that they're like, oh no, they were almost like forecasting doom with the makeup coming off. They're like, it's over, man. If they're gonna do that, they're just, they're gonna be like everybody else, And so they kind of had that, vibe amongst the people that I was with. But the funny thing is, when I went into high school later, a lot of the times people in that time when I was going in high school actually thought of Lick It Up as the big comeback for Kiss. A lot of the guys that I hung out there actually point to Lick It Up as the return of Kiss to a lot of them. Then they were saying, once that album came out, people weren't afraid to wear their jean jackets again, and they weren't afraid, to wear a T-shirt that had Kiss on it. Because they were saying before that, nobody wanted to wear it when they had, Unmasked and stuff like that. So obviously, I think that this album did a lot for them as far as getting them back into the public eye, and as far as, getting some credibility back with some of the people that they've lost it with. So I think it's a good album for that, especially. But I'll agree with Paul Stanley. I still think Creatures is a better record, but there's nothing wrong with this album.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as someone who came on board in 1985, everything I really say about the band is absolutely revisionist because I wasn't there in the first place. I had a friend, Dave, and Dave, I think I returned your cassette eventually, but he had the cassette. 1983, I didn't know what was going on. I was listening to Men at Work, Duran Duran, Quiet Ride, and Pyromania, and of course the Beatles and John Lennon. So musically, I didn't even know they unmasked. I didn't even know, essentially, that they existed at that point. So fast forward to 85, and I start going back through the catalog. Dave told me that he had this album. So I didn't bother buying that one. I waited until I could borrow it from him, and then I was very reticent to return it to him because it was a fantastic album, but because I didn't come in sequentially and wasn't coming on from Creatures to Lick It Up, I just don't have the context of what it would have felt like like Ken did, having suffered through The Elder and Unmasked and Dynasty from, basically the high point of their career. So I can never have that understanding of this album. I recognize that. But listening to any piece of music, I was always blown away by how consistent the album was. It was absolutely stunning from start to finish, those opening notes. And then you go back and you think, well, they come off Creatures, they do this, and this gets much more visibility, probably because it's building. It was a process of rebuilding for them in the 1980s. But I'll leave it at that. It really was, just, I remember listening to it for the first time, those first notes of Exciter. And I was like, after, obviously listening to Asylum that starts off with King of the Mountain, a very similar dynamic start. I'm like, wow, Kiss is awesome. I'd had Animalized by then as well, which also starts off very dynamically with I've Had Enough. So, for me as a fan coming in, these are the right sorts of albums to be experiencing, because what else can you say about that? Let's talk about the cover quickly before we get into the song rankings. And this is an original CD, obviously. I love the quality of it. It's the right tones. It's the right colors. I hate the remaster with a passion. I hate everything about the design of that package. The artwork is garbage compared to the original version. I mean, obviously mine's a Euro one with the back credits, which I can't even remember what the American one looked like. But Ken, for you in particular, coming off Creatures, were you disappointed that you basically just got this, a posed picture? And, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I thought it kind of made sense. I mean, just keep it simple. And the one thing I thought was interesting is how they had Gene Simmons sticking out his tongue, still showing that tie to the past, and to also let the people know that he was the one that stuck out his tongue. Yeah, that's that was the demon guy, because they wouldn't know if you just looked. I think you wouldn't be able to tell who was Ace if they thought it was Ace or Eric Carr or Peter Criss for that matter. If they still thought Peter Criss was in the band, but and you can pretty much tell Paul anyway. Paul still looks basically the same, even without makeup, that he did. But I think it was a smart decision to just keep it simple, and like I said, tie Gene Simmons back to that era of Kiss, and let the people know that this is still Kiss, but just without makeup.
Yeah, Paul Stanley just standing there, looking casual, looking dead sexy. Alex, what are your thoughts on the cover?
I think it's a cool cover. As a kid, I didn't know that Vinny had a wig on. I just thought he looked different than from what was in the video. And obviously if you see any Creatures there or look it up tour stuff, obviously he wasn't wearing the teased out wig, and so his hair was a bit more flatter. But I thought it was a good contrast compared to the first album cover, having a black background, to do the opposite for the first album cover of the non-makeup. So it was a kind of a great open shot. I remember Kissery, I think the book Kissery had some outtakes from that session, and I'd love to see some more outtakes if they had any, to see what else they could have used and stuff, because I thought a couple of the other shots that they showed in Kissery, I'm like, oh man, that would have been a cool cover with the four of them kind of sitting around each other and stuff. So I'd like to see what were the ones they didn't use. But I think they did a good job with the cover, and just kind of basic. Like I said, the white was very grabbing to attention. You walk into a shop, and I can imagine you're like, oh, hey, there's a white album cover. What is that?
Yeah, well, like the makeup, it's a lot of black and a lot of white, technically. So it's a pretty good allusion to what they had looked like. I mean, again, I think it's their last great album cover. because obviously Animalizer's garbage, Asylum is very divisive, Crazy Nights is stylistically nice, but some of the photos kind of leave a little bit desired. Smashes is trash, Hits isn't that great, Revenge is pretty blah, Alive 3 is terrible, but let's leave it. Let's kind of leave that all there. Mark, your thought on the art?
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. I mean, in a retrospect, when you think about it, I'm sure it's not anything like the earlier records, right? But I guess if you're a new fan and if this is your first introduction to Kiss, it probably wouldn't be that bad. You probably think, oh, it's pretty cool. It has attitude and stuff like that. And Paul's flashing the Rolex watch on the front there and stuff like that. And it has all the right amount of attitude that they need to kind of give it that we're still cool vibe to it.
We're still rich with the Rolex.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, but I guess for the long-term fans, like the diehard guys, I know that there was always that kind of little rumblings amongst some of them saying, "This is what kind of cover is this?" Like they were so used to like the the over-the-top kind of covers, like like the Rock and Roll Overs and the Love Gun covers and stuff like that. And this was just like, again, that one guy, I always remember him in my apartment building. He's always like, "They're going to be just another band now. They're just going to be just another band," because they looked just like another band, And it got annoying after a while hearing him saying that all the time. But I understand what he meant by that. But I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with it. I mean, I think it's a band shot. They did it good, and it did what they wanted it to do, to give them that appeal and that kind of appearance that they were still, they meant business and that they were very rich still. So there you go.
Yeah, it was a contrast. I mean, if you put the album next to, say, Shout at the Devil, 1984, Tooth and Nail stands out. Creatures of the Night definitely stands out. So let's get into the rankings. And as always, we use the Lipstick Generation methodology. We assign a point to each song, add them up, and then that's our ranking for this panel. So go over to the Lipstick Generation's YouTube channel and check out their new video, The Eyes of Love. They've been doing the rounds on podcasts to talk about it. So let's get straight into the rankings. And I'm surprised this one scored so lowly. In 10th place on 9 points, which is really pretty freaking low. Gimme More. And Alex and Ken have this as their least favorite. Alex and Ken are on the same page in a lot of ways today. Alex,
right.
let's start with you on your thoughts on Gimme More and why it's your least favorite on the album.
I just, I don't know. I struggled with it. I will say there's that cool, was it the King Biscuit Flower Power Hour, that live show from like Nashville?
Yeah.
And that one was actually a pretty cool version and stuff to like, if I'm jamming to that concert in the car, I'll enjoy it. But I just, I think out of all the songs, that one just kind of came on the bottom for me. Not much to say. I think, Paul, the fast pace is a little maybe much for me. I don't know.
Fair enough. It's not, and anyway, something's got to be in last place anyway. Ken, your thoughts on Give Me More?
Yeah, Give Me More. Actually, give me less of that. I mean, I don't hate the song because I really, I like the whole album really. It's just that I think Paul's better suited writing your standard straight ahead rockers and not trying to do a frantic type song or upbeat, faster tempo type, riffing song. I just think that's not his best. So I never cared for his other ones that are in the similar vein that he's done around this period of time with, even what on Animalize and do you do one on Asylum too, right?
Yeah, I'm Alive. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just, those are the ones I like the least of his songs. I just don't like when he does those. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't work for me.
Well, the voice of reason's telling the Star Child to get back in his lane. All right. Mark, this is your second from bottom song on the album, so I guess we know who's left that actually gave it some points. Why doesn't it work for you?
As far as I'm concerned, again, Ken kind of touched on this. At this time period, Paul Stanley, he writes a lot of great songs. Let's put it this way. The amount of good that he has outweighs the garbage. And I'm not saying this is garbage, but this song is definitely the weakest song on the record as far as I'm concerned from him. And I think that when he gets into this gear where he has to write one, because he writes one on every song, like from as far back as I think Creatures, he starts doing it, I think. And, he does one here, he does one on Animalize, he does one on Asylum, like I'm Alive is his version of that song. Every album has one of these songs on it. And I'm guessing that he's doing it just to, keep with the 80s trend of having an upbeat double kick song on the record, just like every other album around this time had this kind of stuff. I can already hear that guy again. They sound like every other band. So they had to keep into that lane of doing that for every record. So again, I don't think it's a terrible song, but it is his worst song on this record.
I disagree with you all, and I'm the reason why it managed to scrape to 9 points. I loved it back then when I first heard it. There's a great bass line in it. So after the show, go back and listen to the bass line. I love Vinny's lead work on it. I think it's a great... Then again, I love Motley Crue's Red Hot as well. So it just speeds along, but it's the right sort of speed. It doesn't go over the top. Vinny's solo, I loved on day one, and that's why it ranks so highly. Lyrically, is it great?
Does that lick my candy cane? One of the lines?
It's got some Warrior in it, so that's
Christmas themed.
That's fine, a bit of sweet, bit of power. But I always liked it, so there. There we go. And moving on into ninth place with 11 points. This one does surprise me. Young and Wasted.
Wow.
Alex and Ken again. Let's Alex, back to you.
I think after seeing the Animalize live uncensored, I had the DVD and it wasn't there around for the great MTV broadcast that some of you guys may have enjoyed. I think Eric Carr owned the song, and I really, I know Kiss. I know they did a little Japanese, the best stuff. But if they would have done a re-record of a song for like Animalize or Asylum, I would have loved to have had that Young Wasted done with Eric Carr on vocals. I think he, like I said, he owned that song once he sang it live, and I think that's the only reason why is the Gene Simmons version ranks low for me. But if they, if they even had the live version with Eric Carr, then it would have ranked higher.
Way to put a positive spin on a negative vote. Awesome. Ken, you as well. Second from bottom.
Yeah, I think Alex stole my homework or something. Anyway, so yeah, Young and Wasted. I agree with Alex though that I think it would have been better if they would have let Eric Carr sing that on the studio album, just like he did, live. So it was a surprise when he sang it live when I first saw them in concert. I think, I didn't mention when we were first talking about it, is they originally had the concert it was going to be at the San Francisco Civic Auditorium,
yep.
But it was downgraded to the Berkeley Community Theater, so which is a lot smaller. But anyway, aside from that, this song, again, it's a good song. It's just another one of those, a little bit of frantic songs that I don't think Kiss, I'd say excels in fully. It's just not their, to me, it's not their, cup of tea or whatever. They can do it, but I don't think it fits their normal style that they should be, doing as far as music. But anyway, it's a good song. I don't have a problem with it. Again, I think I would have liked it better or moved it up if Eric Carr was singing it. So.
Yeah, I didn't even consider that. So I have it third from bottom. Alex, well done for making that suggestion, as I'm going to steal your homework and go with what Alex said earlier. And I also think there's 2 songs that are much worse than that. So, Mark, you ranked this the highest. Why?
This is one of the examples, I think, of when Gene does an upbeat song. His seem to be a little bit more groovier, and I think that this, when you compare this to Give Me More, I think this has a bit better groove to it than Give Me More, as far as I'm concerned. You can say I'm wrong, but I think that this has a nice groove to it. I like the way it moves along, and I agree with you guys too, because I was watching actually Animalize Uncensored not long ago, and I remember that he did sing this, and as far as I'm concerned, if he would have sung it, I think it would have been even higher up on my chart, because I agree. I think Eric Carr really, adds a little bit extra fire to it. But I think Gene has a really interesting tone of voice. Like, his kind of higher pitched voice during this time was really like piercing. Like, it was really like, it meant business. Like, I can't remember when he had that kind of a toned voice. Maybe on his solo record, maybe he did it once or twice here and there, but it's just unbelievable how his tone of voice was during this time. And I think it's a pretty good song. I don't dislike it as much as I did dislike some of his other songs during this time period.
Nice. All right, so let's move on into 8th place on 12 points. So these 3 bottom songs are pretty much, very much at the bottom for a reason, as we consistently didn't like them. Dance All Over Your Face. Mark, straight back to you. This is your least favorite song on the album today.
Oh, God. Why they didn't flush this one down the toilet, I don't understand, because it's just so... Like, again, I think that they were sitting around the control room by the mixing board and saying, okay, we got 9 great songs. We need 1 more. Anybody got something? And Gene, let me just look through my book here. Yeah, I got something. Let's try this. And it just totally sounds like that. And I think it's just total waste. I think they should have just tossed it. It was a terrible song.
Well, okay. Alex, Dance All Over Your Face. You're muted. You're still muted.
I ranked it up a little bit higher. I actually enjoy it. I think it's got a groovy little groove to it and stuff. I don't know. It's just a fun one. So one of my favorite things to do is when I'm coming home from class, I like to just crank the radio up on whatever I've got jamming to, and there's a big hill that I drive down. That's just fun to crank. And that one's like a fun one to just kind of like sing out loud to in the car, and the wife's not there and the baby's not there, so I can, have the radio up to 40. I just think it's got a cool, groovy line to it.
Yeah, this is my second from bottom pick on this album. And you know what? On this album, that makes it actually a pretty good song when you compare it to Gene's throwaways on, say, Animalize, or actually any of Gene's contributions on Animalize, and some of his throwaways throughout the rest of the 80s are pretty dire. This is better than those, but it's still not saying a lot when you're stacking it up against the other 9 songs on the album. So for that reason, it's down in 9th place for me. Ken?
Yeah, I mean, this one was 7 on my list. So went to 8 for the vote. I'm like Alex. I like it. I like the song. I think it was Gene's attempt at writing an AC/DC type of song that you hear that little riffing that he has in it at the beginning. I hear that kind of thing and like, I can do that. Listen to AC/DC and like, I'll try to do something similar or whatever. But I mean, again, I like this whole album. I like it. I think it's the best non-makeup solo, not solo, but non-makeup album by them, in my opinion. I think it's the number 1 non-makeup album. So that song, like Alex said, it has a groove. It does have a little bit of a groove to it, and it's different for Gene. And I've always liked it. I mean, it's not my favorite song, but I like it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that it's one of the only 2 songs on the album that Vinny didn't get a co-writing credit on, and I think it could have used a co-writing credit, and that probably would have helped. I think it would have helped refine it, and maybe just kick it up a notch. It might have ended up in 8th place instead of 9th. All right, moving on. In 7th place, and on the 8th day, the final song of the album. I have this ranked the lowest, and really it's simply because after the rest of the album, it's just not a great way to finish the album. And it's just never done that much for me. It's like a hybrid of the Warrior stuff thrown together with some Gene ideas, and as a result, it just feels like, something in a tumble dryer vomiting itself out onto the floor when it's done. So, pretty nondescript as far as a song goes. Let's see, who has this? Well, Ken, let's go back to you on that.
I have it highest, probably.
You do?
Like number 6.
Oh, actually, no, you don't.
Oh, I don't? Okay. Well, I like it. I like the song. It is better than Dance All Over Your Face. I like the theme of it. It's kind of like a sister song, almost a precursor to, God Gave Rock and Roll to You. It's that same kind of theme. I almost wonder if he was thinking of that song from the 70s, the Argent song, and thinking, it gave him an idea to do some kind of, God Gave Rock and Roll to You similar type song. But I like it. I think it's a good song, and I like the theme of it, and it's pretty good. I don't skip it.
Yeah, well, you know that Gene really wanted to say on the 8th day, God gave you Gene Simmons, but...
well, yes, of course.
I was going to go to Alex next, but he's done a runner. Mark.
Well, I had this actually at 8th place. I don't think it's the worst Gene song on this album. I think it's actually not too bad. It's better than some of his other album closers that he's done, during that time period. I mean, I think back to Animalize, and those songs that he had at the end of the sides were, pretty bleak there. But I think the one thing that saves this song for me, to be honest, is the chorus. I think that it's pretty catchy, as far as the melody goes vocally on there. And I think that, if I'm not mistaken, I think Vinny did get involved with this song, wasn't it? I think this was one that he did have a co-write in, and I think that it kind of shows because the melody is a bit stronger from the chorus end of things, and I think he might have something to do with that. I think that he comes up with good chorus melodies, especially during this album period, for sure. So I don't think it's a bad song. Again, I think the strong chorus is what really saved it for me.
Yeah, I think Vinny's co-writing credit is actually because he actually wrote the song and Gene co-wrote it, as it was it was a Warrior demo pretty much before
there you go.
It came into the Kiss
there you go.
magnetic field. Alex, you like this the most out of us. Why?
I just I enjoyed the message. I'm a more religious type person, to say the least. But so I just gets kind of fun. It's the whole on the 8th day, God created rock and roll. And so it's just got like a catchy riff. I know some of you guys I won't look at it as a closer for the album, but I kind of like it as a closer. I think it just kind of finishes out, about rock and roll and stuff, and I'm thinking like with Kiss, some of those people that may have stopped kind of being a fan during that whole Dynasty, Unmasked, Elder period, and for some people, They may not have picked up the Creatures of the Night album. I mean, as we know, 2 years later they reissued it with a non-makeup cover. So this is that first non-makeup album that I think some people bought, and they kind of finished out with this song kind of anthemic about rock and roll to finish it out. It's, I think for some people might have been like, okay, cool, Kiss is back. No more Magic Touch or Torpedoes or being under the rose, It's like Kiss is about rock and roll again. This is my band.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you know what, Alex? This song, it was it AC/DC, and again another AC/DC thing. The end of Back in Black, right? Had
rock and roll ain't noise
pollution. Yeah. That's another kind of rock and roll themed, rock and roll is great, this ain't noise pollution. it's a good thing or whatever he says, right? And so it's kind of like that, and it's ending the album. Kisses song is ending the album too. It's kind of the same fashion. So just trying to say this is rock and roll is a great thing.
Don't be ashamed to love rock.
Yeah, Rock and Roll All Night was a ending song. Though I mean, these songs are way different. But kind of ending on a good rock and roll themed note.
Or on the AC/DC theme, it concludes "Let There Be Rock" quite nicely, because let there be drums, let there be bass, and then on the 8th day, there you go. Alex, I'm going to go straight back to you for number 6, which on 16 points fits like a glove.
I just not crazy for the studio version. I love the live version. In fact, if there was to be a song that I wish, I know Kiss has been very selective of the 80s stuff since the makeup got put back on. But man, if there would have been a song from the 80s period that I wish Kiss would have brought back into the set, it would have been this one. It just was such a staple for the 80s tour. And I've always, like I said, I love the live versions. The whole, is that called a breakdown, Mark, where he does the whole, when I go through her?
Yeah.
I just think that's just a fun little thing that he did with the audience and stuff. And so, like I said, studio-wise, it wasn't my favorite, but the live versions, though, are just killer. In fact, I know we're not really talking about a Live 3, but I have no idea why this did not make a Live 3, at least. Even if it had been done like I Was Made for Loving You. Not really live, but...
Yep, good point.
Daniel will be pleased to hear that.
Yeah, on all of those, I agree. I mean, I have it ranked the same as you, Alex, but I certainly agree that live it's better than it is on the studio album. It's actually fun live. So there you go, Ken. You like this the least out of us.
Well, I used to like it a lot better when back in the 80s when it came out. I think I would have ranked it higher than those other two Gene songs that I said were better. I mean, I guess maybe I got tired of it. I heard it so many times, and I heard it so many times live back in the day, because they played it pretty much every tour back then.
Yeah.
And, so I was kind of tired of lives back then. I was like, okay, I like the song, but come on, you have some other songs you can play now too. So it's kind of like today, where we're hearing songs that we hear and we kind of get sick of certain ones. But again, it's a good song, and this is one of those more frantic songs that I do like that Gene did.
Can you stop saying frantic? Because every time you say that, I hear Lars's snare.
Frantic.
Yes.
Oh God, boing, whatever that sound was. Mark, you like this the most of us.
Yeah, I think it's another example of Gene showing his sense of groove. I think that opening riff is pretty good on guitar. That it's simple to the point, and I think overall it works. I mean, overall, when it gets to the live part of it, when they do it live on stage, it definitely goes to a whole nother level. And it just, the lyrics that Gene puts on this, it was just like meant for that live delivery, right? Because you never see somebody bask in their own glory when he gets to that breakdown part. He just seems to be like, I'm the man when it comes to this part, right? And I always thought it was interesting though that he never says butter. He never says it ever.
He doesn't.
Yeah, he never ever says it. It's like, okay, like, what, do you want them to say it, or you're just waiting to think of something else to say, or what? But
the crowd.
I think, But overall,
that was part of Ken's job when he went to the concert. That was Ken's participation moment.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Ken should
but the problem was I had imperial
margarine. Yeah.
Margarine.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway.
Goes through like margarine. Yeah, it doesn't sound the same, right? So, but I think that it's a pretty strong song, and I mean the proof of that is, like you said, they played this song on pretty much every tour up until like Hot in the Shade. I think they did it as well. So I mean, it was still a very popular song amongst the audience, I guess, and especially to Gene. So.
Well, especially because Gene was still in character writing and singing this song. This was 70s vocal Gene still. You know, you can just see him in his makeup, you know, banging his chest doing this song without a problem. All right, so we're into the top half now, so pretty much all songs are equal. There's a massive difference in points automatically as we shift into the top half of the album. So in fifth place, on 24 points, All Hell's Breaking Loose. Ken, I'm going to start with you again as someone who was there when this stuff came out, and I don't know how familiar you were kind of with rap at that point and Paul's kind of rappy intro part. What do you like about this song, and what were your impressions of it when you first heard it back then?
Yeah, I thought it was quite a risky thing for them to do back then. Yeah, I was aware of rap, and I heard some of the early rap, though I wasn't really a fan of that style of music. But when Paul was doing his semi-rapping, I thought, oh, this is different. But it just made up for it. It worked. It just worked, and the chorus and the riff in it that I think is Eric Carr riff. I think came up with the riff, and he seems to come up with great riffs. It just had a good chorus, gang vocals. It's just a good song. So I liked it. I always liked it. That's why I ranked it. I think I ranked it pretty high, 4 on my list. So I wish though they would have done it live. When I saw them, I would have been, pretty happy about that, but they didn't.
Yeah, which songs did they do from the album when you saw them in Berkeley? Look it up, obviously.
I'd have to go back and look at the set list, but yeah, obviously look it up. I think,
probably Fits Like a Glove.
Definitely Fits Like a Glove,
Probably
and
Young Wasted.
And Young Wasted. Probably those 3. Yeah. I'm gonna guess it's only those 3. But I'd have to go look. I have to look at your book, Julian.
Yeah, I'm going to look at that while Mark talks. So, Mark, you, Ken, and I all ranked this the same. So, what are your thoughts on All Hell's Breaking Loose?
Well, I like the song. I think the riff is pretty cool. Hats off to Eric Carr for coming up with it. I think that the verse vocal rapping didn't bug me nearly as much as years later when Geddy Lee did it on Roll the Bones. That completely scarred me for life. I almost put my head in the toilet and flushed it when I heard that, with great shame when I heard that. But this is not nearly as stunning in my opinion. I think it's just, he kind of gave it that sort of rap feel to it, but it's just not nearly as much as it could have been. He could have really overdid it and made it sound much more rap than he did. The video, I think, is one of the reasons why I love this song so much. I think the video just totally added to the coolness of this. That whole cheesy karate fighting thing at the beginning, and Gene, always with that piece of meat, always putting it in the fire and cooking it again. That was always funny. And when they did their little mock fighting, and then Gene putting his hand on his head, and when they saw Paul trying his sword work and stuff, it's like almost like they had a sense of humor in their video, and I think that's what added to it. That made me kind of really like this one a lot more than Lick It Up, the video. So, but I think that it's a good song, and I have to admit, I am very saddened that all the times I've gotten to see Kiss, I never got to hear them do this live. It would have been a great song to play live.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about rap back then, so I didn't see anything wrong with the intro other than it being kind of a stylistic thing in the video. And then when it was on the album, it was like, so what, I'm already familiar with it. So I didn't, have any second thoughts about it. I always loved the vibe of the song. It had a great kind of different dynamic to it than the rest of the album, so it stood out as something different. Yeah. The video I loved, and I'm not even going to call it cheesy. Because when you think back to the stuff that we were watching off Twisted Sister, the father, what do you want to do with your life? It was all kind of wrapped up in that era, or Rats Round and Round video. It was all cheesy.
Motley Crue?
It was all horror. Motley Crue, oh, come on, looks at kill.
Too Young to Fall in Love was almost the same thing with that whole fighting thing.
Yeah, with the post-apocalyptic chic
Yeah.
look. There was, at least they weren't having a barbecue and kicking over hobos. Kiss, of course, we're kicking over. It was very San Francisco. There we go. And, going back to what we were just saying, Ken, at Berkeley, Give Me More was your fourth song from the album on there. And, of course, you got Riot and Vandenberg opening. Alex.
Oh, yeah.
I know I ranked this one the lowest, and I think it was just the rap part kind of kills it for me. But the riffs are great, though. Like the chorus part and everything, that kind of like gang type of vocals, I guess if you want to call it that and stuff. Excellent. I do love the live version. Again, I mentioned before that there's that Nashville '84 show that was like broadcast on the FM. Great live version. I know on one of the Kiss cruises they kind of teased it. I know it's actually a song that Tommy Theo likes, and he's been trying to get it into the set. So maybe this Kiss cruise, worth throw some real gems back into the set. maybe they'll finally get this one right. Because like I said, I know I've heard Tommy say in interviews that it's a song he'd like to do and stuff. And I think it is a fun song live, though.
Yeah, I think at this point we're just going to have to thank Tommy for the songs that he and Eric did manage to get them to play, say 2004 to 2000 and when would that have been? Until the cruises started. I give up on ever hoping for anything. But, in terms of it mixing genres, Read My Body was awkward. This was good. So it surprised me that in fourth place, Lick It Up on 27 points. Here we are, the two singles basically in the U.S. For the album are right there together, and this is almost in the middle of the album. So I have Lick It Up in fifth place, and again, it's a song I love to hate or hate to love. I can't decide which direction I'm coming from. It kills me that it's been done to death live. It kills me that it's been drawn out live. When it's actually, I was listening to the album again today, it's actually a really good song that's been ruined by how it's dragged out live for me and my taste. If they would just prune it back and throw in another song in place of that extended section, I would probably rank it much higher. I'm sure at the time it was also very safe. It doesn't strike me as anything dynamically different, nothing challenging, nothing that really shouts, look at me, I've taken off the makeup. Come on, look at me, damn it. I'm talking to you up here, my eyes are up here. Yeah. It just doesn't grab attention off the album for a band that was taking off the makeup. So really weird. Ken, I'm going to go straight to you as you have it ranked the same as me.
Yeah, it's another one of those where I think I rank it down there because I'm kind of tired of it. Yes, we hear it every time in concert and heard it a million times, and yes, they drag it out. I think Kiss should out. I'd rather them, since they neglect the 80s a lot, is do a medley of maybe Lick It Up, Heaven's on Fire, and Tears Are Falling. That kind of a three-parter there. They're similar in their certain ways. Those songs, right? Simple and to the point songs. And I think they could do a medley of those three songs rather than the drawn out and insert the Who riff or, riffing going on in the middle of the song. It's just, a waste. But, yeah, like you said, Julian, it's a great song. It's just a top-notch song. That's why it was a single and, did pretty well.
Yeah. Alex, you have this in fourth place on your list.
Yeah, same with you guys. I mean, Kiss, if you're watching this because you're bored, stop the middle life part. Stop it. Cut it back. Because, the shorter live version would be great. Like you did on Animalize and stuff. On the Animalize tour, that was perfect segue and setup. Curious, is that Vinny that's still into Oh Yeah with Paul? Has it ever been, defined? Because I always thought it was Gene, but there's something.
I think it's Gene. I believe it's Gene. I always thought it was Gene.
But
studio trickery, all of them.
but it's not a terrible song. Studio's better. Just cut it back. Kiss. stop it and cut it short.
All right, Mark, you've got this the highest out of all of us.
Yeah, the truth be told, I almost put it like higher because something occurred to me when I was listening to this the other day is that I really much more enjoy the song as the studio version. When I listen to it, the live version is a thing that I think that I get really fed up with. Is again that whole Who thing and everything else that's happening there. I get so tired of that drawn out version of the song. I mean, I have a couple of bootleg shows from various tours, and they always seem to do this, and it just gets so annoying hearing them do that I just figure when I listen to the studio version of this, it takes me back to when I bought the first time the single, the 7-inch of it, and how much I enjoyed it when I first got it. And I think this song is definitely stronger in its original form on the studio. And I think that when it's played that way and it's listened to that way, the strength of it comes in much stronger. And I think that it shows how good a song it is and why it did so well for them.
Yeah, fair. It did do well for them in Canada. You got a picture sleeve on your single, didn't you?
Yeah.
Lucky sods. Well, yeah. Actually, if I was living in England, I would have had a poster bag. So up yours. All right, let's move. Oh, radio promo 12-inch. Sure, just rub it in. Do you have the one for All Hells, which is an edit, I believe, for that?
I do not. I do have that picture disc single too of Lick It Up, of the single. The one shaped like a tank.
Oh, yeah.
Don't forget this.
Yeah, the Japanese cover. I mean, that was really
Japanese
cool.
where they try to say, "Hey, we still have makeup, but really we don't."
Yeah. Elder photos. Yeah. All right, so let's move on, and we're into the top 3 now, and I'm thrilled that this one came in as high as it did, because this was, of course, was it the B-side to Look It Up in England, Not for the Innocent, on 32 points. So that's a substantial jump from 27 for Look It Up. Again, I love it. I think this is one of Gene's best vocals as a song. But also, this song is the Creatures version. You can't get that out of your head now that circulates when Paul and Gene are trading off it on it, and it's so badass. When it was recorded, what was it, August 1982? So it came a little bit late, and it wasn't fully arranged or finished. They certainly completed it for this album, and Gene just on the vocals kills. Again, this one should have been done live. This definitely should have been done live. When we look back and say that Young and Wasted should have been Eric Carr vocals on this album, this should have been on the tour. Just absolutely fantastic. I've got this 3rd place. Alex, you've got it in 2nd, so you obviously like it.
I love Not for the Innocent. The only thing that would have probably bumped it up to even number 1 is if they had done the I guess it was a Creatures Era version where it's got Paul and Gene. When that version came out, I think that was like, man, it just took this song to another level, and it's definitely one I really wish they would have done live. Even Gene, if you do your Gene Simmons solo band, please put it in the set. It'd be a great one to hear live.
Yeah, it's not one where he has to scream either, surprisingly. Ken, you also rank it very highly along with Alex.
Yeah, I was going back and forth whether to put this as number 1 or number 2. I mean, I truly, truly love this song, and I agree with you, Julian, about Gene's vocals are just great. Rough, demon. It is demon vocals as far as I'm concerned, even though no makeup, but it is that demon type vocal that he should be always doing. And the song is I just love how it builds at the beginning, and it kicks in, and I don't know. I just love the song. Again, that could have been my number 1.
Yep. Mark, I think it's in your top half, so you obviously rank it highly. What are your thoughts on Not for the Innocent?
I like it. I think it's a good song. Again, just like you guys, it's hard to get the hard not to get the version that was done for Creatures out of your head, and I think that's why it's in my 5th position rather than, let's say, 3rd, because I prefer the Creatures version more, to be honest. But it's a great song, and I remember when I got the single, the Lick It Up single, that was on the B-side of the one that I got, and I remember when I first put it on, at first I was a little, like, not concerned, but I put it on and it had that kind of, that slow beginning, and I was like, And then when it kicks in after, you're like, oh, okay, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just really starts driving, and then you're like, wow, this is actually a pretty good song, And it was one of those rare times that I found myself having a single that I constantly flipped all the time. Played one side, played the other side, played one side, because I really enjoyed both sides, and that's really rare. I found with some singles that I had. There was, I got all kinds of singles from before. You get a Police one, and there was some song on there that you would want, and the other side it was unreleased songs you never heard of. It like, what is this? But this is one of those great examples that had 2 good songs, on either side. So I think it's a good song. It's just, I think it just ranked at 5 because I like the Creatures one better.
All right, we've got 2 songs left, so everyone watching or listening who's pensively wondering which one's going to be the top song, you're going to know in a second. All right, in second place, on 35 points, drum roll, 1,000,000 to 1. And this is my favorite song off the album, and I vacillated and flip-flopped and went back and forth between it and Exciter, going, oh, which one? I love them both. They're both awesome. They're both my favorite songs, but I've got to pick one. And I went with 1,000,000 to 1 strictly because of Paul Stanley pulling it out on his solo tour and finally giving us a live version, and one that he epically slayed. He just did a fantastic job, and thank you, Paul. To this day, it just made that tour that much more special, him performing it live. It's a great power ballad. It continues the kind of theme of Nowhere to Run and I Still Love You. It's just, he was in a different place, and when he was writing with Vinny, it was just next level. So I love 1,000,000 to 1, and the rest of you are not quite as gaga for it. So Mark, let's go to you to take us down a notch and speak more realistically about it.
Well, I had it on number 2, so it's just not that far behind yours, but I have to agree. It's a great song, probably one of his best ballad type, like rocker ballads of this time period for sure. One of the great crimes that has gone unpunished to this day is what the hell the A&R people were thinking when they didn't release this as a single. They should be taken in the back and flogged like several times, get some big baseball bat and smack them upside the head with it, because if they would have released this, who knows, maybe it wouldn't have been a top 10, because you know how people viewed Kiss then, especially the radio DJs. But I think it could have did something if it had the right push and the right cha-ching behind it to get it the play that it needed to get to that position. But I think that it's a great song. It could have been a impactful single, and it has everything about it is fantastic, from the singing to the guitar playing to the drumming to everything on it is perfect. It's probably one of the most perfect songs on this album.
So someone should have been pistol whipped with a love gun for not putting this out as a single.
There you go.
There you go. All right, Alex and Ken, you both have this in third spot. So Alex, let's go to you.
Really, these top 3, the last one, this one, and the number 1, they kind of intermix. I was like you, Julian. It was like difficult to pick. And now they agreed that 2006. I was so excited, because that was like my first Kiss related show, was the Paul Stanley Live to Win tour. And when they said like they were going to be doing, I think they just announced like there's going to be 2 songs never done live, and I was so excited to see what they were going to be. And I actually was happy. One of it was Magic Touch, but I was really happy for 1,000,000 to 1. I remember the song, but man, and I remember being up front at that Baltimore show, and like you said, Paul, he just slayed it, and it's almost like a shame that the song didn't get its due until 2006, to be honest. I know there's that guy, I think he's from Europe, Satin. He's like an acoustic tribute, and he did a pretty killer acoustic version. I remember thinking like, man, this would have been a great like unplugged song too for Kiss. But it's just a great song, full of emotion. I loved, even loved when Vinny, and I know Vinny, it's not really a big singer, but when he pulled it out for the little bit that he did at the Atlanta Expo, and I'd love to hear like, if there was a demo, I'd love to hear from Vinny besides across the room and back on the streets with Paul on vocals, it would be the Vinnie Vincent, what he brought in when he brought in 1,000,000 to 1. I'd love to see what he brought in.
I'm like, wow, great thought, Alex. I would love to hear Vinnie sing this in Vinnie's style, because he's got a great set of pipes too. I think he could do it justice, but it's all a matter of who has more lyrics in there. Does Paul have the lyrics and, Vinnie kind of contributed, or is it vice versa? Because I wouldn't want Vinnie to sing it if he doesn't own enough of it to, kind of do that. Ken, you've got this the same, third place like Alex.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a great song, great power ballad type song. I do agree with Mark on the, they should have released this as the second single. I mean, I do like All Hell's Breaking Loose, but I think this makes much more sense as a single. And I think it would have, it could have extended the life of, the sales of Lick It Up, and, maybe give it more life, and to where they could have released maybe then down the road a third single of All Hell's Breaking Loose or whatever. I just think it's, maybe people will say, oh yeah, they did Lick It Up. Yeah, one song. That's all they can do. But then if they hear this, like, oh wait a minute, this is pretty, it's good too,
Yeah.
So maybe they would have said, oh, maybe I'll check out that album and buy it,
Yeah, this album easily could have had 5 singles off it. When you think of All Hell's Breaking Loose, Lick It Up, Not for the Innocent, 1,000,000 to 1, and
yeah, it's all over your face.
and Exciter, which incidentally is the KissFAQ panel's number 1 pick off Lick It Up with 39 points. I'm the one who kept it from having a perfect 40 for this panel. Yeah, Alex, let's go to you. Number 1 pick.
I love it. It's just such a great song. I've heard, bootleg live version of it. So I've never understood why Benny couldn't do the solo on the album. I think it was Rick Derringer did the solo on the studio version. Yeah. But just such a good song. It's kind of fast paced. I know we kind of talked a little bit earlier about Give Me More being that fast paced song. I know Big Ken or Mark wasn't too keen on the fast pacedness for like Give Me More, but I think Paul doing this one. I mean, man, between this and the next album that came out, I've had enough for Animalize. Paul had 2 really great openers. And if you go back to Creatures of the Night, I really think these 3 albums had really great opening songs to start the album off on the right pace.
Very good. Ken?
Yeah, this is just a great song. I mean, I was flip-flopping. I thought this might be number 2 or number 1, but I ended up making number 1. I think it's one of the best lead-off songs on almost all Kiss albums. I mean, even going back to, I Stole Your Love, which was a great lead-off song. I think, I Stole Your Love a little bit better as a lead-off song, but this song is the best of the 80s lead-off songs, in my opinion. I mean, this just totally kills. I've always loved the song. I love the solo. I know it's not Vinny doing the solo, but it's just, hey, it's just a great solo. And Paul's vocal on it, and he screams out, Exciter, and extends the vocal. I mean, it's just, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a great song, great opening, album opener, and you can't miss.
Yeah, perfectly crafted and executed. Those are the only things I'm going to say about it. I love it. I have no problem with it being number 1. I'm glad it is number 1 because it is just absolutely incredible song. Mark?
Yeah, I have to agree with everything said. I mean, I love the very beginning, that kind of chorusing kind of effect on the guitar when they start that. It's so cool. I love that beginning. It's such a great opening song. And again, I think you guys are right. A strong opening song is the key to a good record. This one is definitely one of the strong ones, and Paul had quite a few at this time period, strong opening songs. So this one is definitely deserving of the number 1 place. It has good pacing, it has a great chorus, it has a great verse. Everything about it is standout, and I think they definitely went in knowing this was going to be the opener.
We've kind of talked about the videos and the singles as we've gone through this, but Lick It Up as the first single, followed by All Hell's Breaking Loose. Agree, disagree, and if not, what would have been your two picks? Ken?
Well, again, yeah. I mean, Lick It Up as a no-brainer of a song to have as a first single. But again, I think A Million to One would have been the second single, would have made more sense.
Yep. Alex?
I get Lick It Up, partial with the title and stuff. I hadn't seen the All Hell's Breaking Loose video until later. And so, if you guys remember on Kiss Beyond the Makeup, was that VH1 special?
Yeah.
There's a part where you see one of them kicking like the sparks in the dirt and stuff in the studio. Yeah. And the background music to that was Exciter. So I actually thought there was an Exciter video, and I was kind of bummed out when I found out it was All Hell's Breaking Loose and not Exciter. I was like, oh, that would have been great. So I probably would have gone with maybe Exciter as a second single, just for that fast-pacedness with it.
Yeah. Mark?
Yeah, it's funny. I was going to say the same thing, actually. I think that the single, to put the second single as All Hell's Breaking Loose maybe might have been a mistake. I think A Million to One would have been the logical one, but I think that Exciter might have even been a great one to pick too, to kind of keep something, more upbeat and in your face, to kind of keep people's belief that Kiss were back, So I think that would have been a good one to use as a second.
Yeah, I kind of think that All Hell's Breaking Loose should have been the first single because it was different enough. I think it would have grabbed a little bit more attention.
Yeah.
It wasn't kind of your kind of standard stuff that was coming out at the time. So, that followed by A Million to One, Lick It Up could have just stayed the title track, for two singles. And then, of course, the videos, we've talked enough about them, so there's really nothing else to say. They're very dated, they're fun, they're entertaining, which is exactly what they should be. And I think Vinnie Vincent secures his place in history on this album simply as a restrained player. And this is just, kind of an illustration for how good he was under the right circumstances. And I'm sure, he might disagree, which is fine. He's the artist, but, I do love his solo on Exciter. I don't see enough difference in it than what Rick actually put on the final one to really, have any sort of major debate about it. It's just a little bit crisper and more concise, but his is perfectly stated for the song as well, for what circulates. I'd love that to be out in full crystal clear quality, and I'd love to hear some of the outtakes from this album as well. All right, so there we are. Lick It Up. We've gone through the KissFAQ panel's ranking of the album. Let me just give you a quick countdown of that as a recap. In 10th place, Give Me More. 9th, Young and Wasted. 8th, Dance All Over Your Face. 7th, and on the 8th day. Shouldn't that have been an 8th? That was a bit of a... Yeah. 6th, Fits Like a Glove. 5th, All Hell's Breaking Loose. 4th, Lick It Up. 3rd place, Not for the Innocent. And not in number 1 place, A Million to One in 2nd place. And number 1, the KissFAQ's panel's favorite song off Lick It Up, Exciter. What do you think about this ranking? What are your favorite songs off this album? What do you think about the things that we've said about this album and its songs today? Chime in on the YouTube or KissFAQ message board threads or wherever it is that you listen or watch this show. We do appreciate you watching and love to interact with you, so do give us your thoughts on what we've said. But for now, from Alex, from Ken, and Mark, and myself, thank you for watching, and we will see you next time. Come on, guys. I gotta wave. Bye. Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final. There are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the KissFAQ message board and discuss the topic we've broadcast today. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes, Spreaker, or wherever you've listened to the show. We hope you'll join us again.